Hello ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, innies, outies and in-betweeners. My name's Dan. Welcome back to another PAP Reports. Today is Friday, April the 24th, 2020. Today we're starting with a despicable West Mercia police constable. 52-year-old PC Michael Darbyshire is currently on bail while he awaits for his Hereford Magistrates Court appearance on Tuesday the 23rd of June, charged with 5 counts of indecent assault and 1 count of rape. Darbyshire, who is based at the Worcester police station, has been suspended from his role whilst on bail and awaiting his court date. As soon as I find more information on this, I will of course update you. Even though the force are asking anyone with information that could assist them, they've failed to release a picture in order to help people know who he is. But I suppose then again, he likely wouldn't make it to the court if his image was released. The Police Service of Northern Ireland have recently clarified the only reasons you can leave your home in Northern Ireland during the lockdown. Although recently updated guidance has been issued in England, the PSNI have said that they are following Northern Ireland executive rules and not England's guidance, which was issued by the National Police Chief Council and the College of Policing. It has been said that this is due to some members of the public becoming confused over the guidance. I'm sorry? The public were confused. I'm pretty sure from what we've seen, the police are just as confused, if not more so. Last week, advice was issued to police forces in England on what they should consider a reasonable excuse for someone to leave their home during the lockdown. The guidance was issued by the National Police Chief Council and the College of Policing, and it includes going to local beauty spots and going out on exercise more than once per day. However, the guidance was issued to police forces in England only, while the PSNI say they will continue to adhere to the regulations set out by the Northern Ireland Executive. The new guidance issued by the NPCC and COP on what constitutes a reasonable excuse to leave the place you live was explicitly marked as England only, and was meant as guidance to help police officers interpret regulations which only applied to England. According to these new guidance, things likely to be reasonable included driving to the countryside and walking, where far more time is spent walking than driving, and exercising more than once per day, where repeated exercise can be considered a reasonable excuse. It also says stopping to rest or eat lunch on a long walk is likely to be reasonable, but distinguishes that from taking a short walk to a park bench to sit down for a long period. However, in Northern Ireland, you must adhere to the specific reasons for leaving your home referred to in the Northern Ireland Executive Regulations as a reasonable excuse. And they are: to obtain basic necessities including food and medical supplies, to take exercise either alone or with other members of your household, to seek medical assistance, to provide care or assistance to a vulnerable person or to provide emergency assistance, to donate blood, to travel for the purposes of work, or to provide voluntary or charitable services where it is not reasonably possible for that person to work or provide those services from the place where they are living, to attend a funeral of a family member. Also, that no person may participate in a gathering in a public place of more than 2 people, except where all the persons in the gathering are members of the same household, where the gathering is essential for work purposes, or to attend a funeral. The thing is, they are exactly the same as the England guidance, except they haven't been given examples of what constitutes a reasonable excuse. This only serves the police in being able to misuse the powers they have, as it leaves the police the power to interpret whether your reasons are deemed reasonable enough for them. And as reasonable is subjective, this could clearly cause much confusion and much abuse of the police powers that they now have due to the coronavirus legislation. In PAP Reports on the 22nd of April, I told you how the Australian police are able to track your every move during the coronavirus lockdowns, using bank data, mobile phone data, and even the use of the Trace Together app. Well, it appears that the use by Israeli police of mobile phone location data to enforce quarantine has been halted because of privacy concerns. The government had approved the use of mobile tracking data for a limited time to make sure those ordered to self-isolate were in fact doing that. But now an oversight group in Israeli parliament blocked an attempt to extend the emergency measures passed this week, with one of the committee members saying that the benefits do not outweigh the harm that could be done. Gabi Ashkenazi, who chairs the committee, said the government would re-examine the wording of the law in light of the concerns, and the bill was withdrawn for the time being. Last month, Slovakia also passed a law allowing phone location to be used to track people in quarantine. EU privacy law and the General Data Protection Regulations does not prevent tracking for public health purposes, but officials say contact tracing measures must protect privacy rights as much as possible. There are said to be several countries that are considering using Bluetooth technology tracking, although they call it tracing rather than tracking, with Google and Apple working together to provide an API for its use. The Bluetooth model is also the basis of the UK's contact tracing app, which is currently being tested at a Royal Air Force base in North Yorkshire. It seems police chief constables are a little worried about their roles amid fears that they could be sacked by what they are calling ill-equipped and arrogant crime commissioners, which they say is making it harder for them to do their jobs. Harder for them to get away with stuff. Chief constables gave scathing assessments of some police and crime commissioners who have the power to remove chief constables from their roles, claiming the crime commissioners are driven by ego and personality, according to a report in the Criminal Law Review. Driven by ego, that's a laugh coming from chief constables. The report states it appears that the metaphorical axe hanging over the head of a chief constable could swing into action for ostensibly modest reasons, which in turn could lead to chief constables becoming risk adverse in their day-to-day practice. Modest reasons. Now, let's be fair, if that was the case, then we'd have seen dozens chief constables sacked by now. I mean, what are they moaning about? They're literally allowed to get away with murder, and they're whinging about it. The report, which integrated interviews with 17 senior figures, including PCCs and chief constables, claimed that the power to get rid of chief constables could cause instability in the police, and it may lead to police leadership becoming indebted to their PCC. Which begs the question, who would be overlooking the chief constables? And why are they so desperate not to be held accountable to somebody? One chief constable quoted in the Criminal Law Review report admitted to some fairly major bust-ups and difficult conversations, but added that they never thought a PCC was going to sack them. The influence of the elected commissioner has an effect further down the ranks, making career progression to higher positions less appealing, according to senior figures who were interviewed for the research. Of course, because who wants to get to chief constable and not be able to get away with anything they want? A police investigation is now in progress after a man questioned a traffic warden why he had been issued parking tickets during the lockdown. Now, you have all no doubt already seen this video. A parking warden complained to police after the man filmed them, claiming wardens had been verbally abused by the man. The video, taken outside the man's home near Boscombe Pier in Bournemouth, has been viewed more than 1 million times on social media. The video is taken by the man himself, and he relentlessly questions why he has been given parking tickets. He tells them he has a permit to park outside his home, but that spaces had been taken up by other people. He also questions why 5 police constables attended his home to look into the incident. A Dorset police spokesperson said Dorset police received a report at around 11:30 a.m. on Sunday, March the 29th, that a man was filming civil enforcement officers in Undercliff Road in Bournemouth. Ooh, filming. Officers attended and spoke with the motorist involved. Subsequently, officers received a formal complaint and one of the enforcement officers that they had been verbally abused. Police attended the address of the man to invite him to attend a voluntary interview to be questioned in relation to the public order offence. Inquiries into the incident are ongoing and no arrests have been made. They added the number of police deployed was based on standard risk assessment, taking into account information available to officers and a number of other factors that we're unable to go into full details of. Factors such as the constables were bored and had nothing better to do, because that meant doing real police work? Or could it be that he had a camera? Oh no. The spokesperson continued, the officers attending included 2 tutor constables who were currently training 3 student officers, who can be seen in the footage. We are committed to developing these students so they can assist with our resilience in the coming weeks. The whole incident was captured on body-worn video camera. Well, I for one will be very interested to see the excuse given for this one. And of course, I'll keep you updated when more information becomes available. If you live in Lincolnshire, you may want to know that some of your neighbours are actively seeking tougher action to be taken by police in a call for tougher police state-style enforcement under the coronavirus lockdown. In a Facebook Q&A, questions to Lincolnshire Police Chief Constable included calls for roadblocks on the highways to the coasts and the wolds, while more officers to be on the street, all vehicles to be stopped by police, and a harder hand when it comes to enforcement. One resident said, "I'm interested to know if there's a magic number of how many deaths we'll get to before Lincolnshire Boston Police start policing the more rural areas. Cases are rising in Boston, and although the majority are adhering to the guidelines set out, social distancing is not being taken as seriously by others. What's the plan to tackle this? Are you just being as complacent as some of these who think it won't come to us? We'll be okay." Sam Parker from Spalding said, "It seems some people really are not taking this seriously. And will more police officers be patrolling rural areas around Spalding, as most people in villages seem to think they can get away with gatherings not being in the town environment?" Lynn Howard said, "When are you going to get tough on those holding parties and social gatherings, those having friends round every day?" Another unnamed questioner asked, "Why can't you be more firm when it comes to enforcement?" The Assistant Chief Constable told people, "We've always said from the start that we won't put roadblocks up. When it's appropriate, we will pull vehicles over and engage with people in those vehicles, but not putting roadblocks up. We have adopted a strategy of engage, explain, encourage and enforce, and that for Lincolnshire Police has worked really well. Small numbers of people who flout the rules and who we need to take enforcement action against." So although the Assistant Chief Constable gave the answers that most people want to hear, we won't know if she means it or if she's simply saying it to keep the community calm. However, be warned, there are clearly many of your neighbours willing to grass you up. The same neighbours who must have failed history at school and know nothing about what a police state will entail and just how much worse it will be for them too, as a police state will affect those calling for it as well as those not. It won't forgive them and let them carry on with life as normal, but they don't seem to understand that. Reports that the UK government may soon be telling the public to wear face masks has been released after scientists told the government that face masks could help stop the spread of virus. The guidance is set to say that those who can't stay more than 2 metres apart at work and on buses and trains should wear a cloth face mask, such as a homemade mask, scarf or other non-surgical covering, to help slow the spread of the virus. Ministers are expected to study the findings over the next few days before making the decisions public and changing official guidance. Pretty sure the police using facial recognition cameras are going to love that one. It's believed that the experts think face coverings won't help stop Brits from catching the virus themselves, but could help in stopping them spread it to others. Some countries have actually made it mandatory to wear them. Some have advised people to wear them, and others, like here in the UK, still believe it's not really going to make much of a difference. A Whitehall source said no decision is going to be made which would take medical masks away from the NHS, and that everybody is very clear on that. However, there are fears that changing advice on masks may mean sick Brits venturing outside instead of staying isolated in their homes. Health Secretary Matt Hancock said of changes to mask guidance, "We will follow the advice and listen to what SAGE, the Scientific Advisory Group for Emergencies, says on masks, and we'll implement that." But he says that the government would not be handing them out at scale. He added, "I can't promise we will give everybody free masks. That would be an extraordinary undertaking, and we have to make sure we have supplies available, especially for health and care staff." Now the thing is, this means that we will have to make our own face masks and face coverings. Coverings which will not fit properly and will allow respiratory droplets to permeate through them and escape into the air still. Even if they are preventative of letting the droplets escape through them, they're going to be loose fitting at the sides, underneath, maybe on the top, because they're not properly fitting and the droplets will still escape. But of course, the government knows best. The UK's Investigatory Powers Act of 2016 better known as the Snoopers Charter, is set to expand to allow government agencies you may never have heard of to trawl through web histories, emails or mobile phone records. A bill that was not once but twice found to be illegal and sparked the largest ever protest of senior lawyers who called it not fit for purpose. In a memorandum, which I'll link to in the description, the British government is asking that 5 more public authorities be added to the list of bodies that can access data scooped up under the nation's mass surveillance laws. The Civil Nuclear Constabulary, the Environment Agency, the Insolvency Service, the UK National Authority for Counter Eavesdropping, and the Pensions Regulator. The memo explains why each should be given the extraordinary powers in general and specifically. In general, the 5 agencies are increasingly unable to rely on local police forces to investigate crimes on their behalf, and so should be given direct access to the data pipe itself. The following is quoted directly from the register.co.uk, as there's no point in me putting this in my own words. The 5 whys. Civil Nuclear Constabulary is a special armed police force that does security at the UK's nuclear sites and when nuclear materials are being moved. It should be given access even though the current threat to nuclear sites in the UK is assessed as low, because it can also be difficult to accurately assess risk without full information needed. The Environment Agency investigates over 40,000 suspected offences each year. The memo stated, which is why it should also be able to ask internet service providers to hand over people's most sensitive communications information in order to tackle serious and organised waste crime. Because people are going to be emailing each other and letting them know that they've just fly tipped. The Insolvency Service investigates breaches of company director disqualification orders. Some of those it investigates get put in jail, so it is essential that the service be allowed to attribute subscribers to telephone numbers and analyse itemised billings, as well as be able to see the IP addresses that are accessing specific email accounts. The UK National Authority for Counter Eavesdropping, and one of its jobs is to detect attempts at eavesdropping in the UK government offices. It needs access to the nation's communications data in order to identify and locate an attack on an illegal transmitting device, the memo claims. And lastly, the Pensions Regulator, which checks that companies have added their employees to their pension schemes, need to be able to delve into anyone's emails so it can secure compliance and punish wrongdoing. Taken together, the requests reflect exactly what critics of the Investigatory Powers Act feared would happen. That a once shocking power that was granted on the back of terrorism fears is being slowly extended to even the most obscure government agencies for no reason other than that it will make bureaucrats' lives a lot easier. None of the agencies would be required to apply for warrants to access people's internet connection data, and they would be added to another 50 plus agencies that already have access, including the Food Standards Agency, Gambling Commission and NHS Business Services Authority. Safeguards. One of the biggest concerns remains that there are insufficient safeguards in place to prevent the system being abused. Concerns that only grow as a number of people who have access to the country's electronic communications grows. It is also still not known precisely how all of these agencies access the data that is accumulated or what restrictions are in place, beyond a broad brush double lock authorisation process that requires a former judge, a judicial commissioner, to approve a minister's approval. A report published earlier this month by the Investigatory Powers Commissioner's Office was set up to oversee the spying law covering 2018, gave the entire process a clean bill of health when reviewing a self-contained process brimming with self-congratulation. We have been increasingly impressed with the advantage of Investigatory Powers Commissioner's offices' dual role, first undertaking the review of warrants and second, having retrospective oversight of the use of investigatory powers, the report noted. Judicial commissioners regularly ask the inspector to focus on particular issues during the latter's oversight visits, and the inspectors similarly share information relevant to the warrantry process with the JCs. The report noted that 2018 was a year of transition, but only in a separate section explained that was a result of the fact that the law had to be changed because it had been found to be illegal, since it did not limit the public authorities' access to retained communications data solely for fighting serious crime. It was the second time the law was found to be illegal in part, and last year the entire law was challenged as being incompatible with human rights laws. Despite the transition resulting in what the report acknowledged is inaccurate data, the statistics at the end of the report do not provide as full a picture as they will in future years. It was encouraged by the fact that it is clear that there are only a few refusals by the Judicial Commissioners of the applications they considered. The Investigatory Powers Commissioner's Office then immediately defended both the Judicial Commissioners and the government. It is critical that this should not be interpreted as a failure by the Judicial Commissioners to provide rigorous scrutiny of the applications, it was said. Nothing could be further from the truth. These applications only come to Investigatory Powers Commissioner's Office after there has been detailed multi-layer consideration within the organisation requesting the authorisation and applicable the warrant granting department. There is no indication in the new memo that seeks to expand the Investigatory Powers Act surveillance powers to 5 new agencies. Whether the resources of the Investigatory Power Commissioner, which currently employs approximately 50 people, will also be expanded. That and whether new agencies' investigatory work can be considered serious crimes and sufficient to grant them access to millions of people's personal data will have to be decided by MPs and peers as it progresses through the parliamentary process. Worried yet? Let me know what you think in the comments. Big thank you to Patreon supporters Adi, Audrey, Bill, Carl, Chris, Copwatch UK, Danielle, Dave, Dean, Holly, Ian, J, Marty Lad, Mr. Mina, Peter, President Trump and Rich. Your support is genuinely helping me to continue putting out these daily reports. Anyway, that is all I have for you today. Please like, share, comment and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts, as I know many of you will. And until next time, stay safe, look after each other, film the police, and of course, other officials.
Good night, all.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you like the content and you'd like to help support the channel, you can do so. In the description of every video, there are some links to ways that you're able to help support the channel so I can continue putting out content. If you're unable to help us in that way, hit that subscribe button up the top there. If you haven't already, become a subscriber. That is support enough. Share the videos, comment, like, it all helps. If you're looking for something else to watch, up top there is my latest video. Down the bottom there is a video that YouTube recommends for you.